Today I'm going to show you how to sew a facing and lining into a garment with an invisible zipper, like a skirt or a dress. So you can see here I've sewn my invisible zipper in, and I have another video on how to do that, so check that out. So I've got my invisible zipper here, and then below here is the seam that I've sewn. Just to show you, I've sewn the invisible zipper in. I usually use 2 passes to sew that in, just so I can get it really tight, and then I've sewn the seam below that. Okay, I recommend having an invisible zipper that's longer than you need and then just shortening it. I've obviously made this really quite short, but that's what I wanted for the purposes of this. I also have my linings with my facings. So I've attached, so these are the facings and this is the lining, and I've attached that to, attach the lining to the bottom of the facing here. So now I'm going to sew my center back seam, but I need to make sure that basically it is the length, the seam starts at the end of the zipper. So I'm just going to place it on top. Got this lined up here. I'm going to place it on top, matching the raw edges up here, and I'm going to pop a pin just a little bit below where the end of that zipper is. It's much easier if there's just a little bit of extra space. I'm going to pop a pin in here, so that just shows me where I'm going to sew, if I can pin it. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, that's more difficult than it should be. There we go. Okay. So this bit remains open, and then this bit I'm going to sew the seam of. Here we go. Great. So now I have my lining just with that lower bit sewn. And what's going to happen is that is going to get sewn in here, and this is the lining. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the facing to the top of the skirt. I'm going to refer to it as the skirt. And to do that, what we need to do is we need to flip this seam allowance out like this. And I'm going to stitch it together across here. Okay, so matching the top. I'll do the same on this side. Remember, we don't want the zipper flipped under like this. We want the zipper tape and the seam allowance flipped out. Going to do that on both sides. Okay, so I'm just going to sew that together. Okay, do the other one. Just making sure that that is flipped out. Okay, so at this point what I would do is I would just flip this up and out of the way, and I would just zip your zipper up and make sure that the ends of the seam here match. Oops. So that just the zipper, sorry, where the facing starts, it's going to match nicely, and it does. Okay, so now I'm going to, I've unzipped the zipper again, and I'm going to understitch this facing. So I've still got that flipped out there. I'm going to understitch this. So I'm going to sew the seam allowances to the facing. You would do your clipping and your grading at this point. Okay, so I've got that zipper tape all flipped out. Okay, and then that's gonna flip to the inside. So we can just check how everything's looking. Just kind of neatly push that out of the way. Zip it up. Okay. And then that facing will sit down on the inside here, like this. Okay. Now, obviously we want to attach this lining to the tape. So if you kind of fold it, you'll see that you'd want to essentially have it sewn in like so. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go away and I'm going to press in the seam allowance to the lining right here. So I'm going to press this down, press this out of the way. Okay, so just pressing in that seam allowance, so effectively pressing this seam open. Okay, I'm back. I've pressed this seam open, so we can just see again what's going to happen. This is just going to fold down like so. Okay, at this point I'm going to unzip my zipper. Okay, I'm going to unzip my zipper here so we can see that this is what it's going to look like when it's finished. Now what I want to do is I want to sew this to just the zipper tape and seam allowance. So I'm going to open it up like this. Okay, so I've opened up the zipper and then I'm folding that zipper tape out again, and I am going to fold the facing and lining combo right sides together with the zipper tape and seam allowance. So let me just pop a pin in that so you can see what happens there. I'm also going to place it just so that that fold that I've just sewn in is not on top of the zipper coil, but just outside it. So it's going to end up that there's kind of a little bit more seam allowance effectively for the lining. I'll pop a pin into it and show you, and then I will do it again so it's clear. Oops, pricking myself. Okay. So I turn it through. Essentially, I am, if you know the term bagging it out, I'm bagging that out. That's going to get sewn here invisibly. Let me do that again for you. Okay. So here's that zipper tape. I've got this pressed open. Let me flip it over. Okay. Got that zipper open. I'm going to flip the tape out. I've got this seam allowance of the lining also flipped out, and I'm going to fold it back on itself where the facing joins onto the garment. I'm going to flip that back, right sides together. Okay, here, like this. Okay, then I'm going to actually just flip it over. I think it's going to be more easy to see. No, actually it's not. It's easier to see this way. Okay. And then I'm going to sew it. Okay. Down like this. You just pop a pin in it to hold it. Okay, I'm going to change my zipper foot over. Okay, so take this out. I find it's useful to shift that over just a little bit. So it's not quite matching. Go in here deeply. Now you don't want to be too close to the zipper tape. I'm just like seeing where this crease is, and I'm just placing where I want it to. You are not going to sew all the way down to the zipper pull. I'm just kind of sewing down here like that. Okay, so let me show you. If I turn it through, see, we've got that lining there, and on the right side we can see the invisible zipper. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so it's kind of already folding back for me. Remember, I've got to flip that tape out, okay? And then folding this part over, okay? I want to use the other side zipper foot. Just making sure that that is all flat there. Oops, my zipper foot just fell off. Okay, obviously it wasn't connected on very well. Okay, at this point we need to do some pretty aggressive grading and clipping because all of this is very bulky. But first what I would do is I would just double check that everything is good before you trim anything. So let's turn it through. Go on this side, pretty neat. Okay, right here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. You can see the facing and the lining is good. Okay, let me unzip it and turn it back through so we can do our grading and clipping. Even just with this quilting cotton, you can see it's very, very bulky here. So, you know, I'm gonna definitely cut that off. I'm gonna cut some layers off here. Okay, I'm just basically trimming back what I can. I should have already graded this, but I didn't. But I would suggest doing that back when I told you to with the facing. If you're really sure it's good, cut that corner off. Okay. Get in there. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. Right across here. It's easy to do that before this is all sewn down though, so. Okay. Here we go. Turning it through. Oops, where are we? Here we go. Okay. Let me go give it a press. Okay, so here we are. Got our invisible zipper. This is the right side. Here's the wrong side. Obviously you wouldn't see that row of stitching because you'd use matching thread. I do like to just have a little bit of open, what do you call it? Open seam here. I think that's not a problem. If it really bothers you, you can neatly hand stitch it down. I just think that's better than if this seam was sewn up higher, your zipper pull could kind of get lost in there and kind of end up munching the lining accidentally. But anyway, that's how I do it. You can see the facing here attached to the lining. So that's the wrong side, and that's the right side. Everything matches up pretty well. Hope that helped.